I asked an important question on Instagram whether or not Rotten Tomatoes deserves some hatred because it does receive a lot of criticism for how it's been managing reviews. So we're going to go ahead and translate the conversation that's from Instagram to a YouTube video. This comment from Film Essentials says, because the ratings make no sense, probably. I don't think it's the fact that the ratings don't make any sense. I mean, you can understand how the ratings work, but I think the fact is the way that they're handling the ratings is pretty awkward. When you're grading on whether or not a movie is like great, good, mediocre, bad, or awful. And this one pretty much goes into discussion about that. People don't understand how their ratings work. Just because Black Panther has 97% doesn't mean it's the best superhero film. It just means 97% of critics gave it a positive review. And this is my response. That makes sense to me. That kind of rating is distracting though, because if there is a movie that gets a 100%, the assumption would be that it's really good. But if the reviews are only subjected to a like or dislike factor instead of a 1 through 5 star rating, it would be hard to tell the difference on what is a really good movie and what's a decent one. And his response is, I agree, it's not the best system, and the way it works should be more well known, as it would save on many arguments. And I do agree with that. If you understand how the rating system works on Rotten Tomatoes, it would actually save a lot of arguments, because if you know a lot more knowledge about how something works, then the arguments would be a lot less confusing. Although there are some arguments towards Rotten Tomatoes that I do think are distracting, why some of the things that are going on in Rotten Tomatoes should be fixed. Because if the brief summary reviews that they post on their web page is only subjected to a like or dislike factor, why have this 100% to a 0% rating system on the front page of the film? You could probably tell the difference. One movie is just saying that it's being liked by critics rather than saying it's being praised by critics because it has a certified fresh label on the fresh-o-meter. But when it comes to the dislike factor, there isn't really a specific type of rating where somebody could tell the difference between like a mediocre film or something that's like awful. So I still feel like that kind of mechanism is gonna be buggy a little bit. I think in part it considers reviews either a thumbs up or a thumbs down with nothing in between, making for a somewhat inaccurate score, which is something that we've already talked about, but yeah, I agree with what the guy says. I don't remember which film it was, but I remember there was a group of people flooding a film with negative reviews before the movie was released because they didn't like the casting. I'm assuming that what they're talking about is the user audience review system that they have on their webpage. I don't think it's any shock that there are going to be fakes out there who pretend that they're actual real critics when they're using the user score and saying like, oh yeah, I'm actually giving this a real accurate review when they haven't seen the movie at all and just wanted to downgrade the film for no reason. I'm not sure that in part should be blamed by Rotten Tomatoes. I think that just is in blame for the people themselves for why they're doing that, because I feel like that in general is going to happen on any review site, no matter what. Like, people are just gonna create something fake and get away with it. But then again, I don't know much about all the stuff on how to get a review on Rotten Tomatoes because I never tried to actually sign up onto Rotten Tomatoes before. I don't think it deserves so much hate because it is not a review site. They go out there to collect critics' reviews on films, even TV shows too. I think people just need to relax and look at a bigger picture. I like the way that this guy thinks. I don't think that this deserves as like the most incredibly horrible review site that nobody should ever go and look at ever in general. I think it's just review sites who post terrible reviews that should actually get the blame. I mean, not necessarily Rotten Tomatoes, unless there are some, like, systems that Rotten Tomato is doing that makes people really confuse how it works that I think they should actually fix upon. Now, this is definitely bringing up something that has hatred for. A lot of reviews are fake. My identity was stolen on Rotten Tomatoes, and reviews for films I've never seen or heard of put in my name, and negative reviews for films I love put up. I contacted Rotten Tomatoes about it, and instead of doing anything to help, they banned me from the site. Eventually, I was able to get back in and take over the account, which I do not use because of how they treated me. But when I tried to delete all the fake reviews under my name, it would not let me, and they still exist to this day. I ended up speaking to a few people who had the same experience. This person also said, I gave up trying because the way the site would rather just get rid of me than acknowledging any of their reviews are fake or that they were allowing it to happen was effed up. They are fake and full of S-word. And keep allowing this stuff to happen. Heck. Sorry. I'm not a person who likes to swear. Might not even be involved since they don't stop it. So that within itself definitely gives her complete big reasons why that would deserve hate for Rotten Tomatoes. And yeah, I guess like people for the critics side actually do get fake accounts, because I remember Sean Chandler, he was on Rotten Tomatoes because he was catfish over there. I'm wondering if he was able to delete some of the reviews that were posted on that website because they probably weren't the exact same phrases that he was able to speak about on that website. So it doesn't feel like that what she's saying is actually false. I feel like that this is something true that did happen, and if Rotten Tomatoes isn't necessarily handling it, there is that reason why somebody would actually hate this website. Could this be a simple mistake that somebody behind the scenes is not really noticing what's happening here? Maybe there is some like miscommunication that's going on here and there, or maybe there isn't. Maybe this is like what Rotten Tomatoes is actually doing. I have no idea. So yeah, I say Rotten Tomatoes, get that fixed and do much better at your job, because they are very inconsistent with critic reviews as well as audience. What do they mean by inconsistent? How? Do they mean that the reviews that are being posted online are not necessarily the same as some other people's reviews, or does it not necessarily match to the way that the film is portrayed on screen? Maybe that's it, because I do see reviews that people post on Rotten Tomatoes that made them feel like that they are not necessarily watching the film that they are watching exactly. Even though I did say this before, like, oh, maybe Rotten Tomatoes isn't to blame, maybe it is to blame, because they are the ones that are picking and choosing these reviews to be on their website and promoting people to go ahead and read their journalism. So that is something odd that Rotten Tomatoes is doing, which I'm not necessarily sure why they are technically doing that. Maybe it's just a perception thing. It's not much different than IMDb ratings for the most part. Yeah, IMDb can also be a reason why their reviews are not necessarily taken as seriously as Rotten Tomatoes either. Some people would probably find the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes to be worse than IMDb, because I guess like Rotten Tomatoes is more for like people who take in journalism seriously, but when you actually read the reviews, it feels like that it is a joke. But with IMDb, at least it feels like that they're coming from people who do watch the film. But then again, when you see the people who have clearly not seen the film at all, it seems like that their reviews are much worse because they are making fun of themselves for thinking that they're being like an actual critic. Opinions of critics and fans. Probably not 100%, but from my experience, many believe it to be a factual score and don't see Rotten Tomatoes for what they truly are, just an algorithm set up to display opinions. That is like the majority thing that I've been stating out a lot of times throughout this video. It is like that percentage factor that is so distracting, because if the reviews that are putting out are a like to a dislike factor, but if they have like so many more likes than dislikes, but the likes that they do have are more like, yeah, I liked it, rather than, wow, this is amazing, the like factor would actually turn itself around to being like a 90%, where people are thinking that it's factually accurate that this movie is fantastic, rather than thinking that this movie is just, like it was alright. That's actually one of the reasons why I feel like Rotten Tomatoes does have a problem, why some people would have a problem with Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think that the site should get that much hate. From some of the comments that I have been seeing, maybe there is some reasons why this review site does kind of deserve some of the hate that they've been getting through some of the experiences that they've been experiencing when they try to sign up on Rotten Tomatoes, or when they have seen the reviews that are on Rotten Tomatoes. And there you go, guys. That was it for today's video. Let me know down in the comment section below, what did you think of this video, and what do you think about Rotten Tomatoes, and how do you feel about it, or what your experiences are when you try to sign up on Rotten Tomatoes, or when you actually read the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Put them down in the comment section below, and let's start a conversation about it. And like this video if you agree with what I say, or dislike this video if you disagree with what I say. I don't mind the dislikes. So that is it I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.